This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Isai. Bruchim Abam to the Kol Agra the Pirka. This morning's topic will take us at least 2, if not more, sessions. It's a major topic. The name of the topic is The Case of the Poison Sandwich and the $25 million Funeral. That's the case. The case of the poison sandwich and the $25 million funeral. This was a case that became very controversial in Eretz Yisrael, and it began with a story that happened over here in our country in a medical class, and we have the psak of Hagon Rabbi Glatstein, which created a great commotion and a great controversy. It was challenged by many Rabbonim. Reb Chaim Kanievsky weighed in, and from here we learned many principles in torts, in Bava Kama, in damages, and it's really a very fascinating, unusual situation. Okay, so the case was first reported in a Torah journal called Tamei Yaakov in Kislev in the year Tafshin Samach. It's volume 44. And basically the shaila began like this. Let's say you have a vault, you have a place where you store money. Are you allowed to put candy outside the vault, laced with poison, in case an intruder comes and wants to steal, he'll pop a candy and drop dead? So that's the beginning of the shaila. But basically what happened was like this. Shloishes ha-mechtavim shalfanenu. The 3 letters we have in front of us, meharabonim ha-go'inim, from the following go'inim. Number 1, Sinai Meir Frankel. Number 2, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. And number 3, Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. Oiskim amnam b'maisa shaloi haya. We're going to talk about something that never happened. Lefachos bein Yehudim. It never happened among Jews, but it did happen among Goyim. Ach nishal ha'shaila, the question is, ilu haya b'maisa yodena, if such a thing were to happen, heichi l'dainoi daina l'haidina. How would a judge the following case? Okay, basically, here's the story. Gufa d'uvda. Techonist is what? No, a scientist. A scientist. Me'achem nibate ha'sefer l'madam, in a laboratory, eisham ba'artzis habris, somewhere in this country of ours. He was not successful. Now you have to understand what that means. He wasn't successful. There are 2 spheres in life. There's academic and then there's social. Academically, he was very successful. Socially, the guy was an abysmal failure. In his studies, he was a great chemist. But socially, kashal va'ad mehira hafach lemiskan akita. He basically was a fool, and he became the class clown. Okay, matara lehishtalchos ulesgaros hatamidim. Basically, he was the target of everybody's practical joke, right? So anytime somebody wanted to make fun of somebody, he was the scapegoat. So he was a brilliant kid, but he didn't have it together socially. He giu adram lidei. It reached the point. Shayami mevin hachanichim sha'asalei keva. Some wise guy made it his regular practice. Lahalim milkutoi shalamiskein es hakarach shehechen la'atzmai, to basically hide this guy's sandwich. The guy had he used to bring every day a tuna fish sandwich, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, salami sandwich, la'aruchas hatzarim for lunch. And one guy figured this guy is basically shlamazel, shlemiel, and he took his sandwich every day and he ate it at his friend's expense. Nobody came to the aid of this afflicted Talmud. To stand up against the Ganav. So basically he was left without any eitzah. Every day he was starving. He came 12 o'clock, everyone pulled out the sandwich. And every last day the guy opened up his knapsack, and the guy maybe just left the silver foil behind, but the salami sandwich was gone every single day. I don't know why he didn't bring 2. Put one in the front pocket, one in his pocket. I don't know, but the guy that was part of the guy's. He wasn't savvy enough to figure that out. So what did he do? B'yachad hayamim, Basically what happened was, one day in the middle of class, a guy in the back, he croaks. He keels over. They call Hatzalah. The guy in the back is about to die. Oh, and this Chacham from the Manushtani, he gets up, oh, now I know who stole my sandwich. B'yachar hayomim, b'yitzuma shel hartzah, one day, in middle of the lecture, shalachar hafsakas hatzarayim, after lunch, heichel echad hatamidim ba'osak hidel hishta'el lahakchil ulahaki, different fancy modern Hebrew words, he began to vomit. Habahola hoysa gedoyla. There was a great ruckus. Kamoisai misgain, basically the fool gets up, ubikesh lahagias harucha, he said, I have it under control. Now, as dumb as he was socially, that's how smart he was with chemistry. He whips out of his knapsack the antidote to the poison. He gives it to Hatzalah. Hatzalah administers the antidote, and Baruch Hashem, the Ganav recovers. Beregazah, at that moment, Huverli miyu Ganav. He figured out who the Ganav was. It's good he was smart enough to figure it out. Amar, he said, Anihu sharakachti chomer kimei ra'il. I'm the one who concocted the poison. Umesukan v'hitmanti b'sandwich shali. I hid it in my sandwich. Mashagarm le'legav haro kosher b'kat lanas. That's why this person is reacting so harshly. Bizrizu sholav chomer acher. He immediately pulls out another chemical. Shebekoiche lenatral es hashvas hachomer hara'ilim. That had the ability to neutralize the poison. Tzavos ha'atzola shehuzak l'makam pal b'dikus. Basically, Hatzalah out his advice. Saved the Ganav's life. Now this guy rose from being the class clown to being, the hero of the class. All of a sudden, he became Mr. Macho, and he gained new confidence, and now he's the most popular guy in the class. He's the new star of the class. Okay. There happened to be a nice Yiddish bacher sitting in the back of the class who was taking in the happenings. One of the people happened to be there. Seir Yehudi was a young Jewish kid. He today serves one of the divisions of he heads one of the divisions of a hospital in Eretz Yisrael. He presented the Shaila to Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, the author of the Chashukei Chemed, the author of the Aleinu L'Shabeach, the author of Barchi Nafshi, the author of Terascha Shashuai, and a host of other very interesting, and the real author of the new art scroll series, What If? Right? I don't know if you've seen that, but that's also a translation from Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. And Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein gives a regular series to doctors, and he posed the shaila. Hashayla hoysa ha'im mutter liyehudi lasois masa shekazeh sheyigram lamoisa shalaganav. Let's say we're talking about Jews. Could one Jew cause the death of another Jew who is attempting to steal his sandwich? And what did Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein respond? Harav Zilberstein Ana loy rak mutter. Not only is it permitted, af mitzvah yesh v'davar. It's a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Halitehu l'rasha v'yamais. Gorge the wicked man and let him die. Now, what is that? It's in quotation marks. Where does it say that? Halitehu l'rasha v'yamais. When one sees that, he thinks, it must be a pasuk somewhere. It must be in Mishlei or something, or in Koheles. No, it's not in the Tanakh. Well, this psak created great controversy, because here we have one of the Paiskei Dairenu not only giving permission for poisoning somebody, actually he has advised that this is a great mitzvah. He didn't say it's a great mitzvah, but we take our mitzvahs where we could get them. So here we have a new mitzvah. The mitzvah is poisoning ganovim. And he responded, it's a mitzvah, haliteo l'rasha v'yamis. Okay, so obviously, this created somewhat of a controversy. We know how, what? We know that usually we value human life, and here we have a Gold of Yisrael giving us a mitzvah of haliteo l'rasha v'yamis. Well, We start off with a letter. This letter was written by Rav Sinai Meir Frankel. Rav Sinai Meir Frankel writes to Reb Zilberstein that he says, I was at a bar mitzvah at a grandson in Tveria, and a bacher from yeshiva comes over to me, and he attended yeshiva Or Yehuda, and he told me that in the yeshiva they say over b'shem kvod Torah that you're allowed to set a booby trap for a ganav. In other words, the broader question here is, and this is a question of American legal law. Let's say a person has reason to assume that somebody may break into their home.
You're not allowed.
Are you allowed to booby trap your home to inflict harm on a possible intruder?
I got guard dogs. That's the same thing.
Guard dogs is entirely different. All you have to do is say that you have guard dogs.
Now, don't be so quick to say you're not allowed to do that, because it's a very nuanced situation.
There was a case. A burglar fell and broke his back, and he sued and he won. Can you imagine that he was a burglar?
Well, okay, I have cases, but I'm not necessarily authorized to disclose. But every case is different. Every case is different. So the question over here is that, so this rabbi, Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, asked the bacher, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein said you're allowed to set a trap for the ganav. It seemed to me very foreign. And I asked the bacher to go back to you and clarify your opinion. And then he writes over here, the bacher in fact did go back to you. And he came back to me. And he said, you authorized, you certified this psak. You added, not only is it permitted, ela mitzvah shel haliteo l'rosh v'yomos. And not only that, but you added that this story, this psak, was in the wake of the story of the student with his sandwich, and who decided to put the poison in the sandwich, and you paskin that the student did well, and he fulfilled the mitzvah. So therefore, says Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, after I heard that not only did you issue this psak, but you confirmed it and you authenticated it, so I have basically 3 questions for you. Let's take a look. The first question is, what is Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein's psak based on? It's based on this concept of haluteu l'rasha v'yamos, gorge the wicked and let him die. Where does it say such a thing? Where does it come from? It's a Gemara in Baba Kama. Let's take a look. It's really a Mishnah in Maser Sheni, in the 5th parak, Mishnah Aleph, and it's quoted in Shas in Baba Kama Daf Samachtes. Look at number 3. Tanan. We learned in a Mishnah, right? Everybody has an obligation to take off various tithings of their field as part of his duty. So, for example, you have to give Ma'aser Rishon. Well, first you give Truma to the Kohen. You give Ma'aser Rishon to the Levi. You have to give Ma'aser Sheni in year 1 and year 2. Year 3 you give Ma'aser Ani. You have to take Orla is prohibited, and the 4th year is something called what? Neter Ravai. Okay, so a person could technically have in their field Arla, Neter Ravai, Ma'aser Rishon, and various fruit, Shvius. And the question is, do they need to mark it off to protect people from eating it? So the Gemara says in Baba Kama, Tanan, Karem Ravai, the grapes of the 4th year, Hayum Mitzai. Now, there's no Isser to eat Neter Ravai, you're allowed to eat Neter Ravai, you just have to bring it up to Yerushalayim or redeem it with money. So the Gemara says, Karem Ravai, the grapes of the 4th year, Hayum Mitzai in Oisai, they would mark it off, Bekuzois Adama, with clods of earth. Why? Why earth? Simna, the siman was ki adama, just like earth. Ma adama ika hanamina, just like earth, you're allowed to get benefit from it. Afhai, so to Neter Ravai nami, so too ki mifrika, when you redeem it, shari las hanuye mine, you're allowed to get benefit from it. Vishal Arla and Arla, they would.
Still in the ground?
Harem Ravai, it was still attached to the ground. It was still on the tree. It was on the tree. It was the 4th year, so it had to be taken up to Yerushalayim to be eaten. Vishal Arla, the fruit of the first 3 years, they would mark it off becharsis, with shards of clay. Simna, the siman was kecharsis. Ma charsis, just like a shard of clay. Eshen hanomina, there's no benefit you could get from it. Afhai delesle hanomine, there's no benefit that you could get from Arla. How would they mark off kavarim, vishal kavaros besid. Graves they would mark off with lime. Simna, the simon was the chivar ka'atzamais, white like bones. Umemacha, they would dissolve it. V'shoyfech, they would pour it. Ki hechad inichvar tzvei, so it would be even whiter. Amar Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Bameh dvarim amurim. When do you have to mark off neter avai and arla? That's b'shvius. That's in the 7th year. The hefkerin, it's hefkerin, anyone could come and take it. Avo b'shnar shnei shavu, but the first 6 years, where this is not anybody's business whether it's arla neter avai, because it's mine. So what are you doing checking out my field? You can't eat it anyway. There's a sign. Even the sign says lo sikzal. But there's no sign. Yeah, but there's something called the 10 Commandments. And in the 10 Commandments, Hashem said, don't steal. That's warning enough, don't touch my fruit. And therefore, I don't have to mark off Arla. I don't have to mark off Neter Avai. You want to come and eat Arla, Michayev Misa, Gezintehate. Ava B'shar Shnei Shavua, Haliteyu, L'Rasha, V'Yamais. Gorge the wicked man, let him die. I don't have to warn you, don't eat it, that's Arla. God already warned you. Lo Sigzal, don't be a robber. That's the Gemara, that's the quote in Shas, Haliteyu, L'Rasha, V'Yamais. Haliteo l'Rasha v'Yamos means that what? That I don't have to protect you from. So good. Rabbi Tanamam is saying that it's not such a clear proof because here in this case you're allowing somebody to die bidei shamayim. Who says I could take your life bidei adam? Or do we make the case achoite is worse? In other words, it's worse to sin than to eat poison. What's chamira? In other words, it's worse for a person to be chayte beruchnius than to lose his life. So if I'm even allowed to have you do an avera, maybe you can make a kavachomer, I could even kill you. That seems to be the first basis of Reb Zilberstein's psak. So comes back Reb Sinai Meir Frankel, and he says this is not such a clear proof. Why? Take a look. Number one, he has 3 questions. Question number 1. Hamusag shel haliteo l'rash v'yamos, the concept of gorge the wicked man, let him die, moifia b'mishnah meiser sheni, appears in meiser sheni, to which he says Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, he says it's not a proof. Why? Because the Gemara says haliteo l'rash v'yamos. He says, like Rabbi Tanamam suggests, Achsham medur b'zeh she'en choy v'al adam noyam rasha mili kasha b'isra achilu shemayser she'en neter avai. All you see from the Gemara is that if you're doing an avera of gezela, I don't have to save you from the avera of eating ma'aser she'en neter avai. Shechalem isalaf. Aval ligroim la'oinesh gufani v'kavachomer la'maves. But to physically inflict harm on you or to kill you, maybe it's also v'adei sha'asar. So you'll say no. Gadol machtia yoser mehargai. It's worse to cause someone to sin than to kill them. So if I could cause you to sin by not marking off the peiros, certainly I could kill you. But says Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, no. Gamzeh medubar b'dinei shamayim v'lo b'dinei adam. This concept of gadol hamachtia yoser mehargai is in the eyes of Hashem. It's worse to cause somebody to sin than to kill them. But down here in this world, in our reality, it's worse to kill somebody than to cause them to sin. And therefore, it says Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, we have no raya. Halitel l'Rasha v'yamas means you could kill a Rasha. All it says is you could allow the Rasha to stumble and sin. That's ershtens. Number 2, why are you killing the guy? You're killing him? What did he do? Because he stole your sandwich? Since when is somebody who steals a sandwich chayiv misa? Because it's annoying to you? Because you're hungry? So then charge him kefal. Charge him money. But that's extreme. There is no punishment of death. There's no death sentence to ganovim. Ganovim are not, doesn't mean you could give him shlishi. Doesn't mean you should show him kavod. But to kill him, to poison him with rat poison, there's nowhere in the Torah that it says, Hagoinev sandwich shel chavero yitain loy rat poison. Doesn't say that. So says Reb Sinai Meir Frankel, Heichon matzino din maves laganov v'chial iser geneva yesh din maves. So you say, but I'm not killing him. I'm just innocently placing cyanide in a salami sandwich. I'm not killing anybody. This is called The salami itself is cyanide, right? But so you'll say it's only grma. It's only grma. But says Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, everybody knows the Rambam is well known to speak out very strongly against somebody who's goyrim the death of somebody else. The Rambam says that if you hire a hitman, the Rambam says, or you send your slaves to kill somebody, or you tie up your friend in a lion kills them, you're chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. So don't get away with like, oh, I'm just putting cyanide in my sandwich. No, we know the Rambam feels this is very, very severe, and therefore Rav Sinai Meir Frankel writes to Hagoin, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, please clarify to me: do you indeed maintain that not only are you allowed to poison the sandwich, it's a mitzvah to poison the sandwich? Well, writes back Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein very quickly. And he writes this during the season of the Yom Naram, and he writes in very glowing terms to Rav Sinai Meir Frankel, the Avbezin of Yavneel. He writes, "Igarta mu'ulefes apirim." He writes very poetically, "Your letter is adorned with sapphire. I got it." And regarding the student who poisoned the sandwich, and he writes about Rav Sinai Meir Frankel that he's migeza tarshishim, and he says apparently you like to don all the ganavim l'tavschus, and he says first of all like this: you want to know where do we see that a ganav gets misa? He says it's a grma. The Rambam holds that grma is asur. He says what does the Rambam's grma got to do with this grma? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, "V'amina b'matunach, please forgive me. Harei divrei harambam shekvay tarasim eskaven elav." The words of the Rambam that you're referring to, "Heim behochis roitzeach v'sham nemar hasoicher hoireg la'areg eschaver." If you hire a hitman, oishe shalach avodav argo, you send your attendant to kill, oishe kafas chaveroi, or you tie up your friend, kolechan me'elu shofech damimhu va'avain hariga biyada, you're a murderer, v'chayiv misal shamayim. Of course you're a murderer. If you tie someone up and a lion comes, or if you hire a hitman, dvarim elu shekazim aramam, heim ba'oifen shehuzeh haharig b'amtzas Hashem b'amtzas chaya einachem. That's because you're doing it through an agent. But why can't I poison my sandwich? How am I a murderer? I'm not allowed to put poison in my sandwich? Where does it say in the Torah I can't put poison in my sandwich? I'm putting poison in my sandwich. Oh, because you are taking my sandwich. I wasn't goyrem your misa. You were goyrem misa. In other words, you committed suicide. But maybe we'll go to your levaya. You know why? Because you did it grma. Yeah, it's grma. But I didn't do the grma. You did the grma. I put poison in my sandwich. What's that got to do with your death? Who are you doing eating my sandwich? It's my sandwich. Let's say I have idiosyncrasy. Let's say I have a mishigas. That I put poison in my sandwich. Is it an avera? Doesn't say anywhere until you can't poison your sandwich. Now you're coming into my house? Who invited you? I didn't realize I sent out invitations. You must have got it in error. What are you doing eating my sandwich? What does this guy do with the Rambam? He says, Shebazeh kol ma'isa ratzicha nas rak al yedei haganov. You're the murderer. Davle shelo yoichal. You shouldn't have eaten it. We're going to see. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, did you forget the Gemara in Bava Kama? It's a beferish Gemara. Rabbi said, take a look at number 5. Another Gemara in Bava Kama. The Gemara says like this: if you bring fruits into your friend's courtyard and his animal is damaged by your fruits, chayiv. You hear? Let's say you go, Ruvain goes into Beryl's farm, and Ruvain puts plums in Beryl's farm, and Beryl's cows get hurt on Ruvain's plums. Ruvain is chayiv. Says the Gemara, Amarav, lo yishanu ela shehuchlaku b'hem. That's only if Beryl's cows slipped on them. Aval achla, but if Beryl's cows ate the plums, and you know what plums could do. Too many plums, too many floimen are not a good idea. Yeah? Aval achla, pater. The Ruvain is pater. Why? My timer. Havalo shloi toichal. Who told Elsie to have such a big suda of plums? It's Elsie's fault. It's not Ruvain's fault. Who told the cow to eat it? Tripping? Okay, you can't really expect cows not to get a little clumsy and trip on a plum. But to eat, who told the cow not to eat? Who told the cow to eat?
Natural tendencies.
1 plum, 2 plums, but to get a stomach ache from plums, who told him to eat 50 plums? Amar Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes said no. Amina, I maintain, Kinayim v'shachiv Rav Amar l'hashmaita. Rav must have been dozing off when he gave this share. Rav must have been dozing off to say that Ruvain is pater for putting plums and damaging Elsie because Elsie shouldn't have eaten it. Rav could not have said such a thing while he was up. He must have been sleeping when he said that. Why? The Tanya we learned in a brisa. If you put poison in front of the animal of your friend, pater midine adam, you're exempt downstairs, v'chayev b'dinei shamayim, and you're obligated upstairs. Hersta Maisa, if you go and you put rat poison in front of your friend's cow, Bezdin down here will not do anything. Upstairs they'll get you. So let's make a diak. Samamavesu, you're only pater if you put poison, because a cow should not eat poison. When the cow smells the poison, the cow knows it's poison. What's it doing eating poison? That's why you're pater. Avo peiros, but fruits, davida da'achla. Like Rav Nachum said, they're going to eat it. B'dinei adam nami mechayev. Now you're chayev even b'dinei adam. So the Gemara is now saying, how could Rav say that if you put a lot of fruits in front of a cow, you're pater? No, only when you put poison in front of a cow, you're pater. But when you put food in front of a cow, you're going to be chayev. Ay v'amay havelo shaloi toichal. He shouldn't have eaten it. Elamai, we don't say he shouldn't have eaten it. Rav cannot be correct that he shouldn't have eaten it. Says the Gemara, no, really, he shouldn't have eaten it. Amri, hu hadin afilu peiros nami pater min dinei adam. Not only if you put poison are you pater, but even if you put a lot of fruits, you're also pater, because he shouldn't have eaten it. So why didn't he say a bigger chiddush that even if you put fruits, you're pater? No, poison is a chiddush. The chiddush of poison is that even though you shouldn't have eaten it, you're still chayev b'dinei shamayim. Even poison also, still chayev b'dinei shamayim.
This is the whole thing is important because if he would have had the poison in his field and the cow would have walked into his field and ate it, this would be similar to our question.
Oh, okay, good point. But first, let's say what he's trying to bring out from here. What do you see from this case? That if you go and you poison your friend's animal, you're not liable downstairs. Right? That's halacha. If you go into your friend's, yard. I go into your yard, and you have a dog, and I poison your dog, and you spent $1,000 on the dog. I don't got to pay you. That's halacha, with no arguments. That's halacha and Shulchan Aruch. I go into your property and I poison your animal. I do not pay for your animal. You know why? Your animal should not have eaten it.
Excuse me?
You heard me. Your animal should not have eaten it. That's the halacha. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. Relax. I'm not going to do it. I'm not coming into your property. I'm not poisoning your animal. But if I were to go into your property and poison your animal, I'm off the hook. Your dog shouldn't have eaten it.
You should have known better? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Now you're chayev b'dinei shamayim.
I understand, but why not dinei adam? Because the person has a...
The answer is because it's a grma. Grma ben Izakin is pater. Causing is you're not chayev for causing. Grma ben Izakin pater. If I go over to your dog and I, bash it on the head, then you're chayev. This is a grma, I put it. Who asked? No, look, if I lace a food that it's going to eat, maybe that's more than a cause. Here, it shouldn't have eaten it, so it does, I'm a grma. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, so we see from this Gemara that I could if I poison your animal, pater. Why? You shouldn't have eaten it. So too, if I poison a sandwich and you eat it, you shouldn't have eaten it, and I'm pater.
Even if you know there's no poison in the sandwich.
What?
You think there's no poison in the sandwich.
But you stole it.
You shouldn't have eaten it. It's not your salami sandwich. It's my salami sandwich. It's my salami sandwich. He says.
You should have eaten it after you stole.
One second. He says, "Kimavur b'Bava Kama," like we see in Bava Kama. Now you'll say, "Well, wait a second." But in Bava Kama, you're chayiv b'dinei shamayim. That's a big question. So how could you tell? How could Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein say, not only are you allowed to poison the sandwich, it's a mitzvah to poison the sandwich, but in Bava Kama, the Gemara says, yes, if you poison the animal sandwich, you're pater, but you're chayiv b'dinei shamayim. So we're going to see, he's going to address that.
So
Next raya, the next raya, what?
if the poisoner pays for the animal, no more chayiv.
And he does tshuva, he's good, he's off the hook.
Well, that.
But you can't, if you kill somebody, who are you going to pay exactly? Okay. But another raya. Here's another raya. Here's another case. Look at number 6. Look at number 6. It's a Derech Eretz Rabbah. Derech Eretz Rabbah. A brisa. Ma'isa Rabbi Yehoshua. A story about Rabbi Yehoshua. Shehishkim etzlei Adam. Somebody woke up early. Basically, somebody came to his house. V'nasan layachila. Rabbi Yehoshua fed him. Ushtia, and gave him to drink. Ba'aleu lagag, and he gave him lodging. Lishkav, to sleep there. But Rabbi Yehoshua was a smart man. He knew that this guy, in the course of the night, could steal all of Rabbi Yeshua's possessions. So what he did was he removed the ladder from on top of the room, on top of the loft where the guy was staying. What did the guy do? Sure enough, Amad b'chatzi halayli, got up midnight. V'nata osa kelim, he took his lamp. Rabbi Yehoshua gave him a kosher lamp, or if he held of it, and he had some nice kelim in the room. And the guy took his towel and he gave him some chocolates. And the guy took the bedspread. He wrapped up everything in the room, and he was about to jump down the chimney. And remembering there was a ladder there without checking, he fell off the roof and he broke his back. He cracked open his spine. Rabbi Yehoshua wakes up in the morning, he washes Negel Vaser, he says Berachos HaShachar, and he sees a guy half dead in the living room. L'shachris hishkim Rabbi Yehoshua ba matzuk shu nafal. Amar lo, Rabbi Yehoshua says, Rika, you empty guy, kach oisin b'nei adam shekamoischa. This is what people like you do. Amar lo, Rabbi said, Lo yisi yodea shenatata sil mitachtai.
You said the Rabbi didn't know.
I
didn't know you took the ladder, right? I didn't realize. Well, what are you blaming me? I'm like, Reika, Yatu Yadeshem, Amisha, you see, Zehirbach, what, you think we're dumb? We knew what you were up to. We took away the ladder. Mikan Omer Rabbi Yehoshua, La'olam Yu Kol B'nei Adam Einecha Kalistim. When you look at somebody in your eyes, they should be a robber. And give them respect, right? Basically, Kabdeo V'Chashdeo, you show respect. But you got to be suspicious.
What about
I Daniel Kavschus, you're not a robber. But I got to watch out for my possessions. I'm not stupid either. In other words, Kabdeo v'Chashdeo. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, what do you see from here? Rabbi Yehoshua was goyim that this guy should get killed, basically. Because in Chulin, the Gemara says that if you break your back, you're a treifa, you're as good as dead. Now, Rabbi Yehoshua moved the ladder because he knew the guy might try to come down. That means he was aware of the fact the guy might break his back open, and yet he did it. Why? Rabbi Yehoshua would say, I didn't kill you. You killed yourself. Who told you to become a ganav in the middle of the night?
But the guy wanted a drink from the fridge.
He had his own fridge upstairs. He was packed. He had a fridge with a 6-pack inside. He was ready and prepared for the night. There's no reason for him to come down in the middle of the night. The only eventuality was he's coming down to steal.
How would somebody's perception of what somebody might be doing cause him to do something that would kill him or cause him to break his back? His perception of the type of person that he is.
All right, so if he's a good guy, he'll stay in bed tucked in for the whole night. And in the morning, when the lights are on, he'll see there's no ladder there.
Maybe not. You don't know.
So it says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, what we see from here is that once you want to come into my property, come at your own risk. Right? Once you want basically enter at your own risk. I have the right to protect myself, regardless of what the repercussions are. Now, even though the Gemara in Baba Kama on Daf Samach Tes, which uses a lashon of haliteu l'rasha v'yamos, only allows you not. All that Gemara is saying is, I don't have to stop you from sinning. Where does it say that I could actively poison you? The answer is, why does the Gemara use a lashon of haliteu? The lashon of haliteu implies I could not just not warn you from an impending disaster. I could actively kill you if you're not careful. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, the lashon of haliteu l'rash v'yamos, af agav the yisoidoi sheyamos me'aver shebiyadai, but the simple translation of the words are that I could inflict harm. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein from the Gemara in Baba Kama Daf Samach Tes, haliteu l'rash v'yamos. From the Gemara in Baba Kama Mem Zayin Amud Beis, which says that I could poison your animal. From the Braisa Masechta Derech Eretz of Rabbi Yeshua, who took away the ladder. From all these three sources in Shas, what do we see? That basically, if you're going to violate the precept of Lo Sigzal, I can do whatever I like, and whatever happens, I'm not doing to you, you're doing to yourself. Well, this letter made its way all the way to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky, in the edition of Pa'amei Yaakov, gives what doesn't seem to be like a ringing endorsement to Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, but it offers a degree of support. He says like this, Eini roi l'hoira klal, look at number 7, I am not worthy of psak, aval l'choira yesh makoim l'divrei gisi. Right, we know Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein is Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky's brother-in-law. They both married the daughter of Rabbi Yashiv, and the Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, I don't know, in a way it sounds like just to keep the peace in the family. I don't know exactly what the meaning of this is. L'choira yesh makoim, it would seem that there is place for my brother-in-law's psak.
Rabbi Zilberstein very frequently consults with Rabbi Chaim before giving psak. I've heard him of the Archikala.
Yeah.
He says, I asked my shloga Chaim, I'd like to say that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he knew about this before.
Okay. Very possibly, as we're going to see, Reb Chaim Kanievsky actually takes this even further than Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, where ultimately Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein limits and qualifies, and Reb Chaim takes it to the nth degree. But this was all in the 44th edition of Pa'amei Yaakov. In the 45th edition, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein apparently received dozens and dozens of letters, very angry letters. Look at number 8. He says, Kibalti binyan alitei l'rasha asoris muchtama. I received tens of letters, many oral complaints, and many great Talmidei Chachamim are very upset about it. Even some write, Yishtaka davar v'lo ye'omer, let the matter be silenced and not be said. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, I know that the truth is there's no point in continuing the argument. The Ramban, in his Hakdama to the Melchemes Hashem in Masechta Brachos, the Ramban says like this. The Ramban says, many people may erroneously think that when I offer a raya to my idea, they say like this, well, I'll slug up the raya, or I'll find the weakness of the raya, and then I could throw away the whole psak. The Ramban writes as follows. Learning Gemara is not mathematics. Mathematics is a black and white science. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 5 times 5 equals 25. It's not that our most reasonable guess is 5 times 5 is 25. It's measurable. It's a moifes barer. It's absolute. It's black and white. When you're dealing with halacha and you bring a raya, no raya is ironclad. You could always say maybe it's a little different than the case at hand. You could argue this way, you could argue that way. And therefore, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, because you're going to challenge a raya that I bring and say it's not exactly parallel, and therefore you're going to throw away my psak, it doesn't work that way. Halacha is reasonable guesstimation. In other words, the most reasonable and logical conclusion. It's not black and white. It's not measurable. And therefore, just because you think you're going to challenge my raya, that doesn't mean I'm going to back off of my psak. I still feel that this is correct. And we're going to see really what the basis of his argument is. So he quotes over here as an introduction, he quotes the words of the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish says in a letter in Chelek Aleph, letter 28, says Chazon Ish, it's not my derech to argue with people. He says because if I have a position and you have a position, my position is based on so many hakdamos, so many assumptions and so many preconceived notions that in order for me to lay out everything that my argument is based on, it would be impossible. And you disagree with me because you learned so many different sugyas differently. So it's often fruitless to involve oneself in baseless argument. Or he brings another raya, he brings another letter from the Chazon Ish. Says the Chazon Ish, I got your letter, I know I'm right, but it's pointless to argue with you because whatever you said is not really addressing the core of my position. But Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein says, let me give it a shot. Okay? So take a look, we're on page 2, we're number 8, Aleph. And this is really the crux of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein's argument. Even aside from the Gemara in Bava Kama of Halitei l'Rasha v'Yamais, and aside from the other Gemara on Daf Mem Zayin Amud Beis, that if you put poison in front of your friend's animal, you're pater, and aside from the Brais and Derech Eretz, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein was approached by a Talmud Chacham. Talmud Chacham says, Rabbi, what proof do you have that you could poison a sandwich that somebody wants to steal? So Rabbi Yitzchak looks him in the eye, and he says, what proof do you have that you're allowed to turn on the faucet in your house? You have a proof? Where does it say in Shas that you're allowed to turn on your faucet? So the guy looks at him, like from outer space. What do you mean? What proof do I have that I can turn on my faucet? Why do I need a proof? It's my faucet. I could do whatever I want with my faucet. I could turn it on, I could turn it off. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, you got it. Exactly. Why do I need a proof that I could poison my sandwich? Do I need a proof I could put pickles? Do I need a proof I could relish? If I want, I could put sauerkraut. I could put fleischiks. I could put milchiks. And I could put poison. It's legislated in the Torah what kind of sandwich I want to make. I want to make with lettuce, without lettuce. Hold the tomato. Put in the tomato. Hold the poison. Don't hold the poison. It's my sandwich. The Torah is not going to tell me what to do with my food. It's mine. I could do whatever I want with my possessions. The same way you don't need a raya to turn on your faucet, I don't need a raya to put poison in my sandwich. I'm guarding my soul. I'm not eating it. I am going to be very careful not to eat it. Hishafti loy hu adin b'nyanenu v'chizut tzarech raya v'chilama yeyasur li la'admin sama v'zach sandwich shali shebabay. It's in my sandwich, my knapsack. Hari a sandwich shali, hatik shali. I could do whatever I want. You cannot put parameters over what I put in my sandwich. Hagabatzmacha. Let's say I'm storing chlorine in my whiskey bottle. Let's say I don't have a container for my chlorine, and I'm storing my whiskey, or I'm storing alcohol, some kind of poisonous, rubbing alcohol, and I happen to overhear that there's a guy who's after my whiskey. He heard I have a great whiskey collection. He wants to drink some. Now I have to go home and pour out that whiskey bottle because I heard a Ganav might want to drink it? You're kidding me. If he were going to trespass and barge into my house, let him suffer. It's impossible, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, that I would have to remove that whiskey bottle from my collection. You could say like this. Of course, that's where I put the chlorine in the whiskey bottle, and now a Ganav wants to come ahead and drink it. But for me to put poison in the whiskey bottle, because I know that a Ganav is going to come drink it, is that going to be asur? Right? He says, here it's different because I'm hiding the poison with kavana. But he says like this. Is there an issur in the Torah to put poison in whiskey bottles? No. There's no such issur. So what are you getting me on? Oh, you're getting me on my machshava. Since when is there an issur in the Torah on machshava? There's an Isra Machshava? Let me tell you the following case of Menachos. You're learning Menachos now. You have a Gemara? Daf Samach Dalet. What?
No,
So that's on Kabbalah Shabbos. But in Dinei Mamanos, Pigol. That's in Kodshim. But in Hezik, you're Chai, or even Dinei Shabbos. I'll give you an example.
For Goyas?
No. For example, I'll give you a case. Let's say you didn't hear a baby's drowning in the ocean, but you didn't know about it. And you're going fishing. And you're trying to catch a fish. And you spread out a net to catch a fish, and lo and behold, you caught 2 tuna and a crying baby. Chayev or pater. Now, let's say you knew the baby was drowning. You'd be allowed to fish him out, right? But you're not allowed to go fishing on Shabbos. But you didn't know there was a baby. So in the Maisa that you did, was the Maisa good? The Maisa was good. The Machshava was not good. Chayev or pater. It's machlokes. Rabba Amar pater. Rabba says you're pater because the Lamaisa you saved the life. Rava Amar chayev. Rava says chayev because your intention was to be Machal Shabbos. Rabba says pater zil basar Maisa. Rava Amar chayev zil basar Machshava. We paskin like Rabba zil basar Maisa. We don't care about Machshava. Says the Chazon Ish. What's the lumdus? The lumdus is there's no Maisa Isser because the Maisa was catching a human being. It was mukhrach al tzpikuach nefesh. The only issur was machshava. We're not mechayev a person for machshava. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, is there an isser ma'isa of putting poison in a sandwich? It's one of the 613. It's one of the 365 lavin. Lo yitein ral b'soich sandvichoy. What?
Market. You're supposed to remove dangerous substances from your house.
From my house.
Isn't there an issue to have unprotected dangerous substances? Having a loaded gun?
You're not to have a kelev rab. It's like beisai.
Or unprotected poison.
This is not unprotected. It's in my knapsack. So he says like this. We paskin, we follow the Maisa. In this situation, there's no Isser on the Maisa. Elamai, my machshava is that you should eat it? No. So he says this is no worse than putting poison before your friend's behema. What's the halacha? Who remembers what's the halacha? The Gemara Menzayin Amabez. If you put poison in front of your friend's behema, pater. Now here's the $1 million question. Chayev b'dinei shamayim. Last paragraph, number 8. Amnam shamu chay b'dinei shamayim. He says there are 2 reasons you're chay b'dinei shamayim. Number 1, because I'm doing it in your possession. I'm going into your field and poisoning your animal in your house, like you suggested before. But if I were to put poison in my field and your cow would come into my field, then you would be pater even midinei shamayim. So when you come into my knapsack, not only am I not chayev b'dinei shamayim, I'm pater, and it's a mitzvah. And number 2, you know I am chayev b'dinei shamayim because he's a cow, and a cow has no das. But an Adam has das. And an Adam knows better than to eat someone else's sandwich. And therefore, I'm pater af b'dinei shamayim, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. Amnam sham hu chay b'dinei shamayim mashtesivas. Number 1, hu hiniach l'fnei behemes asam mashem b'nei sam b'veisai. If you put in your house, uba behema yagan lebeisa v'achla umesa pater af b'dinei shamayim. To lo yitachen shehamatmin samamavas v'veisai yil of srach mazik. And number 2, habehema lav bardasi. Mashein kein adam shehu bal seichel. Mashein kein a person who is a bal seichel. Ve'ein loy kol siba li'ikaz v'es chaver. What are you doing? I understand why Elsie is going into the house. What are you doing going into this guy's knapsack, eating a sandwich? And therefore, in such a case, you are pater b'dinei shamayim. Okay. Rabbi Isai, this shaila, this sandwich, this shaila also appears in Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein's Sefer Torah Shashuai. He brings down the whole story. He brings down the Gemara Baba Kama of Haliteo Larasha V'Yamois. And he says, well, maybe it's not such a clear proof. Haliteo Larasha V'Yamois is maybe only b'dinei shamayim, where you're getting a person to do an avera. But to kill somebody, he says, "Ulam nira she'en lavim mikan raya afla v'gia b'nefashos shekamash shamanim in a mishnah hushim ba adam v'over averos b'shad nefesh anu le'nisel lidoik shlo yaver averos." In other words, even though normally we have to be array for somebody not to do an avera, here we don't. Achadai minayin shemuter ligroim misa. In other words, all you see is we don't have to worry about you doing an aver. Normally, we're an arev, kol yisrael arev, but not if you're negligent. But how do we see it could cause misa? So he quotes them the story of Rabbi Yeshua in Masechta Derech Eretz Rabbah, and he brings down the idea from Chulin that if somebody breaks their neck open, it has the status of a treifa. Right? The idea that we mentioned earlier. The Gemara in Chulin on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph says you're in a vela if somebody breaks their neck open. However, he does say that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach in a tshuva deals with this Gemara. And let's see what Rav Shlomo Zalman derives from here. He says like this. Well, take a look at number 10. This is Shas Tshuvas Mincha Shloimoi Chila Gimel Simin Kofei. Isa b'Maseches Derech Eretz. He brings down the whole story. La'olam yu kol bnei adam chashuvim l'fanech kilistim v'amachabdan k'Ram Gamliel. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach from the story on the 5th line, V'shapir mistaber kedate. Demar. It's logical, like you're saying. Shemimaisa zeh shaminan. From this story we see rak shemuter oitzarach kol adam lishmar al mamayna. You need to guard your money, and you need to watch out even from kosher people, just like robbers. In other words, yes, don't be a fool. That you see a guy, he looks honest. Don't be vulnerable. Don't be naive. The guy could steal all your money. That's what we see from here. And we see, but he says like this. We don't see you could actively hurt the person. V'gam nira. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, you have to think very carefully about that case. You know why Rabbi Yeshua is allowed to take away the ladder? Because a normal person, before he climbs off a loft, you know what he does? He checks to see if the ladder is still there. It's reasonable to assume that if a guy is climbing down the staircase, which he knew was a ladder, he would make sure the ladder was firm. The guy didn't check the ladder? So I didn't inflict damage on you. He inflicted damage on himself. He was poisheya. But reasonably, would you apply that to a case of poisoning the sandwich? A guy who steals a sandwich, would he be reasonably expected to do a chemical analysis on the sandwich or eats it? He does it every day. He eats salami sandwich every day, and he feels quite good. So says Rav Shlomo Zalman, "V'gam nira she'moisei ganav lo haya bol kol kach levatzeh gnevasa." If he would not have been so hasty, lo haya bol kali de bizayin v'gosh nel shechava, he never would have hurt himself. Ki haya roish asum einenu. He would have seen the ladder's not there. V'yimevakish malabai slavia. He would have asked. He would have knocked. Hey, Rabbi Yeshua, I need to stretch a little bit. You mind bringing back the ladder? But he didn't do that. He was hasty. And Rabbi Yeshua was danim lekavschos. He should have been danim Rabbi Yeshua lekavschos, that he took it away for a certain reason, and he wouldn't have gotten insulted. He broke his neck. That's because that's his own fault. That's his own irresponsibility. So Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, however, take a look. Look back at number 9. He says you could be doicha that Rabbi Yeshua was only. So it comes out like this. What was Rabbi Yeshua's real kavana? Was Rabbi Yeshua's kavana halitel l'rasha v'yamos? Rabbi Yeshua wasn't trying to hurt the guy. Just the opposite. Rabbi Yeshua assumed the guy would check, and he would realize the ladder's not there, and he would stay there for the rest of the night. Rabbi Yeshua's intention was to stop the guy from stealing, not to kill the guy. So the only thing you see is that if you want to put something in your sandwich, that when the guy takes a bite into it, it would scream out, don't eat, this is not yours, it's poison. That you could do. But to cause somebody to eat the poisonous sandwich and get killed, l'chayra, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, we do not see from here. However, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein says like this. Let's see if we could find it. Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein maintains that you have to know who this guy was. This guy was no regular student. What was he? This guy was a chemistry student. This guy was not just a regular chemistry student. Academically, he's the best in the class. And therefore, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, the same way we see from Masechta Darcharetz Rabbah that Rabbi Shua was allowed to remove the ladder because he realized that under normal conditions the guy would check to see if the ladder was there before he comes down. Well, this person, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, was permitted to poison the sandwich. You know why? Because anyone who's stealing the sandwich, he had the right to presume, since he knew he was stealing a sandwich from a chemistry student, he should have realized that it's very likely that it was laced with poison.
That is a stretch.
Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, look at number 12. Hu adin b'inyanenu. Meyachar in the middle paragraph, and we'll come back to this. Meyachar shebelimudim asa talmid chayil. This student, even though he was a socially inept, nevertheless he was very strong academically. And it reached the point basically is being abused every day. He had nothing. He had no eitzah. Shouldn't the Ganav suspected that this poor class clown who he was about to go insane. He hadn't eaten in 2 months. Didn't he realize he could have poisoned the sandwich?
No.
So in a new volume of Contemporary Halachic Problems, in volume 6, Rabbi J. David Bleich does not agree with this comparison. He says, Rabbi Zilberstein rather implausibly equates chemical analysis for the presence of a deadly poison with ascertaining that a ladder is in place before stepping off a roof. A prudent person does not step off a roof without determining that it's safe to do so, unless the person has specific cause to feel threatened. Testing food for the admixture of a poison substance is probably, on the other hand, a manifestation of paranoia. So he feels that I understand what Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is saying, that it was permitted for Rabbi Yeshua to remove the ladder because it's reasonable for a person to check the ladder is there. But to expect the repeated Ganav to do a chemical analysis on the sandwich is, he feels, a little bit far-fetched. But this is what Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein argues, and we will pick up with the case of the poisoned sandwich and the $25 million funeral in Mr. Hashem next week.
Another thing, Rabbi.
Yes.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.